For privacy reasons, names and places have been changed. This story is inspired by true events.
On a crisp autumn morning in 2002, 34-year-old graphic designer Keiko Tanaka and her husband set out for a romantic anniversary hike deep within Starved Rock State Park, Illinois. Their intention was to capture cherished photos on the picturesque St. Louis Canyon Trail. They never returned. Their compact car sat undisturbed at the trailhead, a silent sentinel to their disappearance. Despite an extensive, desperate investigation and a thorough search of the treacherous terrain, Keiko and her husband vanished without a trace into the vast wilderness. For 16 agonizing years, their families lived with profound, unyielding uncertainty, haunted by unanswered questions. Then, in 2018, a perplexing discovery was made. 2 interlocked wedding bands, found remarkably preserved within an old oak burrow near a forgotten, unofficial overlook. This is the complete investigation into what happened to Keiko Tanaka and her husband. Before we continue, let us know where you're watching from, and if you enjoy this content, consider liking and subscribing to our channel. Now let's continue. Starved Rock State Park, nestled along the Illinois River, stands as a testament to nature's enduring power, its sandstone bluffs carved by millennia of water and ice. For generations, it has drawn visitors with its majestic canyons, cascading waterfalls and dense woodlands, a sanctuary of beauty and tranquility. Yet, like many places of profound natural splendor, Starved Rock also holds its secrets, sometimes becoming an unwitting stage for human tragedy and enduring mystery. It was here, in the autumn of 2002, that such a mystery began to unfold, etching itself into the park's quiet history. Keiko Tanaka, a 34-year-old graphic designer, and her partner had arrived at the park on a crisp October weekend. Their visit was more than a casual outing. It was a planned anniversary celebration, an opportunity to capture their love against the dramatic backdrop of the St. Louis Canyon Trail. Armed with a camera and the simple joy of shared milestones, they had set out, anticipating an afternoon of picturesque memories. Their compact car, a familiar sight in the bustling parking lot, was left behind, a silent promise of their return. However, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the last vestiges of daylight faded, that promise remained unfulfilled. The park's gates closed, and the vehicle still sat undisturbed, an anomaly that quickly triggered concern. When Keiko Tanaka and her partner failed to emerge, an alarm was raised, transforming what should have been a peaceful weekend into an urgent search. Initial efforts focused on the St. Louis Canyon Trail and its surrounding areas, but yielded nothing. There were no signs of a struggle, no discarded belongings, no witnesses reporting any unusual activity. It was as if the couple had simply vanished into the very landscape they had come to admire. The perplexing absence of any tangible clues immediately deepened the enigma. Their car, a static monument to their last known location, offered no answers. The vast expanse of the park, usually a source of comfort and recreation, now seemed to swallow all evidence of their presence. No bodies were found, no distress calls made, no trace left behind beyond the undisturbed vehicle. The initial search, exhaustive yet fruitless, only served to underscore the baffling nature of their complete disappearance. Starved Rock, silent and imposing, offered no explanation for the vanishing of Keiko Tanaka and her partner, leaving behind only an empty car and a profound, unsettling silence. The immediate aftermath of Keiko Tanaka and her partner's disappearance in the autumn of 2002 quickly escalated from a missing persons report to a full-scale investigation. Law enforcement, alongside park authorities, converged on Starved Rock, tasked with unraveling a mystery that offered no initial threads. The compact car, still in its parking spot, was processed meticulously, yet yielded no forensic evidence of struggle or forced entry. Without any signs of a disturbance at their last known location, investigators faced a critical disadvantage. There was no obvious point of departure, no clear indication of the path the couple might have taken after leaving their vehicle. Ground searches commenced with urgency, focusing intensely on the St. Louis Canyon Trail, the couple's stated destination for anniversary photos. Teams fanned out, systematically sweeping the rugged terrain, exploring every crevice, every dense thicket, and every overlook. The search parameters expanded beyond the immediate canyon, encompassing adjacent trails, the Illinois River shoreline, and the challenging vertical faces of the sandstone bluffs. Despite the extensive manpower and the dedicated efforts of trained search and rescue personnel, the vastness of the park proved to be an formidable adversary. Each day of fruitless searching deepened the frustration among investigators. There were no discarded personal items, no footprints leading away from established paths, no witnesses who recalled seeing the couple after their arrival. Leads, scarce from the outset, quickly dried up. Public appeals for information generated few credible tips, and the initial surge of local attention gradually waned as the days turned into weeks. Authorities were left with an agonizing void. No bodies, no clear indication of foul play, and no evidence to suggest an accidental fall or a deliberate departure. The unanswered questions mounted, eroding the initial hope for a swift resolution. Was it a tragic accident that left no trace? Had they encountered someone in the park? Or had they, against all odds, simply chosen to vanish? For the families of Keiko Tanaka and her partner, the lack of answers was a torment. Despite the growing despair, a lingering, desperate hope persisted among both family and authorities that the couple might somehow still be found alive, even as the harsh Illinois winter approached, threatening to erase any remaining subtle clues the park might hold. The initial fervor surrounding the disappearance of Keiko Tanaka and her partner slowly began to dissipate as the seasons turned, then years. The autumn of 2002 gave way to a cold winter, which, in turn, yielded to spring, each cycle marking another period without answers. The active investigation, once a whirlwind of search teams and forensic analysis, gradually scaled back. Without new leads or any tangible evidence emerging from the vast, silent reaches of Starved Rock State Park, the case inevitably entered a state of stagnation. The meticulous records remained, filed and cross-referenced, but the daily pursuit of clues dwindled to periodic reviews, a file kept open more out of obligation than active hope. A year became 2, then 5, then a decade. The Starved Rock mystery, once a prominent local news item, receded from the front pages and into the archives. Public memory, ever shifting, moved on to other pressing concerns, other headlines. Yet for the families of Keiko Tanaka and her partner, time offered no such reprieve. For them, the passage of each year was not a fading memory, but a deepening wound, a constant reminder of the profound void left by their loved ones' inexplicable vanishing. Birthdays passed, anniversaries were marked in sorrow, and holidays were shadowed by their absence. The park, once a symbol of natural beauty, became a silent monument to their enduring grief and the relentless torture of the unknown. The questions that plagued investigators in the early days remained as sharp and unanswered 16 years later. What happened to them? Where did they go? Was it a tragic accident, a fall into an unseen crevice, their bodies consumed by the park's wild embrace? Or had something more sinister occurred within the park's tranquil confines? The absence of any bodies, any personal effects, any sign of struggle defied conventional explanation. The files, heavy with reports and dead-end leads, lay dormant, a testament to a mystery that had resisted every attempt at resolution. Starved Rock State Park continued to hold its secrets, its ancient trees and deep canyons keeping silent vigil over a baffling disappearance that had grown cold, but was never truly forgotten by those who desperately sought the truth. 16 years had passed since Keiko Tanaka and her partner vanished into the expansive wilderness of Starved Rock State Park. The case, long since categorized as cold, had settled into the quiet despair of unresolved mysteries. Then, in the late spring of 2018, the silence was shattered by an unlikely discovery, a tangible thread pulled from the fabric of the park itself. It was volunteer tracker Abel Romero, a man intimately familiar with every twist and turn of Starved Rock's trails, who first spotted something unusual. Romero, often accompanied by park historian Margot Field on their informal surveys of less-traveled areas, possessed an almost intuitive understanding of the park's hidden corners. Their attention was drawn to a gnarled, ancient oak tree, its massive trunk scarred by time and weather, located near an unofficial overlook far from the well-trodden St. Louis Canyon Trail. This particular spot, known only to a few, offered a precarious vantage point over a steep ravine. It was here, nestled deep within a prominent burrow on the oak's weathered surface, that Romero's keen eye registered an anomaly. Reaching into the natural cavity, he carefully extracted two small metallic objects. They were interlocked bands, clearly wedding rings, tarnished by years of exposure but unmistakably crafted for human adornment. The realization of what they had found sent a jolt through both Romero and Field. These were not just any rings. The very fact of their interlocked state, and their concealment within an ancient tree burrow in such an isolated location, suggested a deeply personal story. The discovery instantly reignited the dormant embers of the Starved Rock disappearance. After nearly 2 decades of silence, of fruitless searches and unanswered prayers, a physical link to the missing couple had finally emerged. The rings, small and unassuming, represented the first concrete piece of evidence since Keiko Tanaka and her partner's car was found undisturbed in 2002. News of the find rippled swiftly through the local community and law enforcement agencies. The long-forgotten cold case was suddenly thrust back into the forefront of public attention and investigative focus. The interlocked bands, now carefully preserved, became the focal point of a renewed inquiry. Their presence within the oak burrow near a remote overlook posed a fresh set of questions. How had they come to be there? Were they indeed connected to Keiko Tanaka and her partner? And what story did these silent witnesses, hidden for so long, finally have to tell? The Starved Rock mystery, once a closed chapter, was now dramatically reopened, promising a potential pathway to a truth that had eluded everyone for 16 agonizing years. The discovery of the interlocked wedding rings, nestled within the ancient oak burrow, instantly transformed the Starved Rock disappearance from a cold case into an active, urgent investigation once more. After 16 years of silence, a tangible piece of evidence had emerged, shifting the focus from the abstract concept of a missing couple to the concrete reality of these two small, tarnished bands. They became the primary lens through which the past would now be scrutinized, holding the potential to unlock the secrets the park had guarded for so long. The rings were immediately transported to the lab of Professor Jun Seo, a renowned metallurgist whose expertise lay in the microscopic analysis of metals and their environmental interactions. His task was meticulous: to examine every scratch, every speck of corrosion, every minute imperfection on the interlocked bands. This was not merely about identifying the material. It was about deciphering the story etched into their surfaces by time and circumstance. Professor Seo would employ powerful microscopes and advanced forensic techniques, searching for any trace evidence, dust, grit, organic matter, that might have become embedded in the metal, clues that could pinpoint their journey from a human hand to the heart of an oak tree. Simultaneously, the site of the discovery, the unofficial overlook and the gnarled oak, became the epicenter of a renewed forensic examination. Led by law enforcement and supported by park historian Margot Field and tracker Abel Romero, who had made the initial find, the area was meticulously reevaluated. Every inch of the ground surrounding the tree, the steep ravine below, and the winding paths leading to the overlook was subjected to intense scrutiny. Investigators sought any sign of disturbance, any dropped item, or any environmental clue that might explain how the rings came to be secreted away in the burrow. The goal was to reconstruct the events that led to the rings' deposition, to understand the forces of nature or human intervention that had placed them there. This new investigation demanded a seamless collaboration. Law enforcement personnel worked closely with the scientific precision of Professor Seo, while the intimate knowledge of the park possessed by Margot Field and Abel Romero proved invaluable in navigating the challenging terrain and understanding its historical context. Every piece of information, no matter how small, was now considered critical. The silent park, which had for so long offered no answers, was being forced to yield its secrets, one microscopic clue at a time, all centered around the unexpected emergence of two interlocked bands from the bark of an old oak. The painstaking work within Professor Jun Seo's laboratory soon yielded its first, critical revelation, shattering 16 years of silence. The renowned metallurgist, employing powerful electron microscopes and advanced spectroscopic analysis, meticulously examined the interlocked wedding rings. His team discovered a unique signature of microscopic particulates embedded within the rings' surface imperfections. These minute fragments, no larger than grains of sand, were not random environmental debris. When analyzed for their geological composition, they matched the distinctive grit found along what appeared to be a collapsed social trail, an unmaintained, unofficial path long erased from modern park maps. This precise forensic link provided the first concrete direction in 16 years, transforming the abstract cold case into a targeted investigation. The focus now shifted from the rings themselves to the elusive trail hinted at by the embedded grit. Park historian Margot Field, with her encyclopedic knowledge of starved rock's past, and volunteer tracker Abel Romero, whose intuitive understanding of its forgotten contours was unmatched, became instrumental. They meticulously cross-referenced old topographical surveys, faded hiking guides, and even local folklore, searching for any mention of informal routes that might have once crisscrossed the park's less-traveled ravines, particularly those near the unofficial overlook where the oak burrow was found. Their painstaking efforts, combining historical data with ground-level reconnaissance, eventually led them to a section of overgrown terrain, far from the established St. Louis Canyon Trail. Here, the subtle remnants of a long-abandoned path could still be discerned beneath layers of leaf litter and encroaching brush. Following this faint trace, they arrived at a previously unnoted, forgotten ledge. It was not a sheer cliff, but a treacherous, eroded overhang, partially obscured by dense foliage and perilously close to a steep drop into a ravine. Here, the ground bore unmistakable debris scours, long, parallel marks in the earth and rock, indicative of something heavy having slid or fallen down the slope. These were not the clean lines of a controlled descent, but the chaotic imprints of an uncontrolled, tumbling movement. Crucially, the nature of these scours, coupled with the ring's location near an unofficial overlook known for its perilous footing, suggested not a deliberate act, but a sudden, uncontrolled descent. The absence of immediate witnesses and the challenging terrain pointed to an event likely occurring under the cover of darkness, an accidental misstep on an unmarked path. After 16 years shrouded in impenetrable mystery, the pieces of Keiko Tanaka and her partner's disappearance were finally beginning to align, painting a tragic picture of an accidental fall, a silent end to their anniversary hike. The meticulous reconstruction, built upon Professor Seo's forensic metallurgy and the topographical insights of Margot Field and Abel Romero, finally pieced together the tragic events of that autumn night 16 years prior. It was determined that Keiko Tanaka and her partner, perhaps seeking a more secluded spot for their anniversary photos or simply losing their way as dusk settled, had ventured onto the unmapped social trail. This path, known for its precarious footing and gradual erosion, led them unwittingly toward the forgotten ledge. Under the cover of darkness, with visibility severely diminished and the terrain unforgiving, one or both must have misstepped. The debris scours on the ledge pointed to an uncontrolled, violent tumble down the steep, rocky incline into the ravine below. It was a fall from which they would not have survived, their bodies likely coming to rest in a remote, inaccessible section of the gorge, eventually concealed by sediment, leaf litter, and the relentless forces of natural decay over the subsequent years. The interlocked wedding rings found deep within the oak burl now offered a chilling, yet logical explanation for their extraordinary journey. During the violent impact of the fall, the rings, likely worn why one of the partners could have been dislodged from their finger. Their specific location within the burl, rather than at the base of the tree or in the ravine, suggested they might have ricocheted or tumbled with surprising force. It is conceivable that the rings, having been flung during the descent, landed within the natural cavity of the ancient oak, which stood precariously close to the edge of the forgotten ledge. Over the years, the burl, a natural growth and protective mechanism of the tree, may have slowly enveloped them further, securing them within its woody embrace until Abel Romero's fortuitous discovery. For the family of Keiko Tanaka and her partner, the resolution, though devastating, brought an end to 16 years of agonizing uncertainty. The hope of finding them alive had long faded, replaced by the torment of the unknown. Now, a definitive answer, however tragic, allowed for a measure of closure, providing a narrative to their inexplicable disappearance. Their loved ones had not vanished without a trace, nor had they been victims of foul play. They had simply succumbed to the park's hidden dangers, their final moments a testament to the unforgiving wilderness. The dedication of individuals like volunteer tracker Abel Romero, whose keen eye broke the case open, park historian Margot Field, whose historical knowledge guided the search, and metallurgist Professor Jun Seo, whose scientific precision revealed the microscopic truths, proved instrumental. Their combined persistence and expertise illuminated a path to resolution where conventional methods had failed. The starved rock mystery, once a haunting enigma, was finally solved, not by uncovering a crime, but by piecing together the silent, tragic narrative of an accidental fall on a forgotten trail. The ancient oak, which had held the secret of two interlocked bands for so long, ultimately revealed the quiet, poignant end to a love story, reminding all that even in places of profound beauty, nature can claim its own, silently and without witness.